Welcome to Two Caps and a Coffee, a podcast with two friends chatting about the topics that matter most to us over a cup of coffee, bringing you into the conversation. I'm your host, Kaiden.
And I'm Renee.
And today we're going to talk about the anime movie, Your Name. But before we get into that, I want to know, Renee, what's in your cup of coffee today?
I am actually opting for a straight tea. So I have some English breakfast tea from Tozo, the brand. It's probably familiar. It's in hotel rooms primarily. But yeah, I wanted something simple because sometimes you don't want the crazy buzz in the morning. But what about you?
Today, I'm drinking out of one of my favorite mugs. I love these types of mugs. For those of you who can't see, it's just a nice little white and black with a blue line strip in the middle. And it's just black coffee with some sugar in it because I go hard sometimes. But really, it's because I forgot that I ran out of milk as what I use for like creamer. I don't use whole milk. Ew. I use coconut and almond milk. I'm not a psychopath, guys. I promise. And so today's topic, right? Going into that, I really want us to dive down and to understand what is Your Name. It's an anime movie, and
Yes, and it was actually released in 2016. It's really cool because it's one of the only movies that I feel recently in this, like, at least in this space that we've seen, that has been like actually somewhat correct in terms of like timeline. So when we started the movie with our main character, it was in 2016, which is when the movie was released, and then there was a period where we went back in time and forward in time, and I like the correlation between that. It wasn't just like this was set in the 80s and here we are still in the 80s. Like it was still very, I don't know, realistic. I like the timeline. But um, in terms of a synopsis, do you want to start us off with that, Kaden? Just a general, what is the premise of the movie? And then we can kind of like dive into our thoughts because that's what we wanted to do this week. More of like a how did Your Name make us feel? Not necessarily like, oh, if you've never seen the movie, we're gonna like recap it perfectly for you to go see it. No, if you want to see it, you can rent it. It's not free online. It's free if you have some specific resources that you like to lean on. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm
that's all
gonna
that's
say.
gotta be said. So starting off,
Um,
Your Name, yeah. From the very beginning, essentially, you are seeing that like you feel very discombobulated because you don't really understand what's happening. It has this beautiful musical intro. You see these like two characters, it's a boy and a girl who are roughly around the same age, and they're like form some type of connection, but you don't understand what. And then it's like in a split second, you see her wake up from her bed in rural Japan area, and it's actually not her. And that's the funny thing is that she wakes up and she's just like, "Oh my god!" And so moving forward with the rest of the movie, like the plot line and everything, is that they are switching in and out of each other's bodies during the same time this celestial comet is coming close to Japan. It can be seen from Earth, very close. It's like a every what is it? So many hundred years. I want to say it's like almost 1,000, 1,200 years ish.
yeah, 1,200 years.
1,200 years that this comet comes by, and so it's like a once in a lifetime, once a millennia type of thing, and it's causing a lot of these effects and these changes between these two characters, and so you get to see the discovery of that. This is a love story, so you have that aspect too, and we love that. And the things that I will ruin for everyone is that it does end on a happy note. I hate love movies in like with someone dying. You know what I mean? I, I I will not watch a movie if I know someone's going to die at the end that I really care about. Um, I do have to preface that it does end good on a good note. So yeah.
It's worth watching. I guess yeah, if you haven't already figured it out, this is gonna be filled with spoilers. So if you're like, oh my god, it's on my wish list, girl.
Mm, yeah. This is your chance.
So, because we're not pulling any punches. Um, I just thought Your Name is so interesting because, like, as you mentioned, there's that musical number in the beginning that feels like a theme song. So at first I was like, is this like based off of like a series or something like that? But I can't find anything online to like support that claim. I think they just were like, hey, let's do an emotional baseline setting with this song that kind of shows them like going back and forth between places. And I think one of the cool things about the movie that I don't know, we don't really understand why is like why these two got to switch bodies. Like, is it because of the Miyaza or Mia's Muz? I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry. But like, their family tradition that she said there was a point in time where everyone in her family was having these dreams. Like, is it because they have like this like mystical connection, or is it just like serendipity? Um, I don't know, maybe that answer somewhere online or someone in the comments can like help us out with that. But I just thought that it was so cool that these two folks were able to figure out how to prevent mass ruin from happening to like literally hundreds of people just because they were switching bodies and actually like had the sense to like take notes in their smartphone. So I just love that. Now I'm gonna look up the
I
name of the village.
I really loved so the what happens, right, is that this comet comes, and in one version of their lives together, comet destroys this town, and it's horrible, it's sad, you find out she dies, and that kind of makes you want to stop watching, or at least it made me want to stop watching, because you're like, no, main character cannot die. I hate that. But then, you quickly see that he's not willing to give up on it, and he's willing to still fight for her, and he finds a way to reconnect to her, and he helps her save the town. And so it's like it's it's very serendipity. To me, it gives very Studio Ghibli vibes. Um,
Yes.
Even though I don't think it's by anyone connected to Studio Ghibli from what I know. And that's so crazy is that like they have this sense of whimsy, but it's also more emotional and real. Um, these characters are in high school, right? I mean, typical Japanese anime, these characters are in high school. And I love it. So the two main characters are Mitsuha and Taki. They're the ones who keep on switching bodies between each other. Mitsuha is in rural Japan. Taki is in Tokyo.
Tokyo.
Yeah. So my first thing that's funny is that like when they both wake up, you see their first experiences waking up, and the first time in each other's bodies. And Taki, whenever he's first in the girl's body, he's just like, oh, and he's feeling himself on his
Literally.
holes, and he's just like, oh my gosh, what is this? They feel so real. It's hilarious, I think. And then even with her, whenever she wakes up, that's the first thing she feels too. She's like, I feel so light. It's like they're gone. And she's just like, what happened? And then for her,
She's like, there's a weight down there.
she goes, there's something down there.
But isn't that so realistic though? Like if you wake up in like the opposite like sex's body, you'd probably be like, and they were cis. Let's keep it at that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you would be like, let me explore my new equipment. So especially since they were teenagers, like if they just like, oh, let me like go into like maybe their important files and try to see who they are. Like they were like, I'm in the body that's not mine with my brain. I'm going
hmm.
to understand this physically. So I just thought that was so funny.
I thought it was hilarious too. I think it's also funny that like this movie is very cisgendered heteronormative, but because of the body switching, it also makes it feel very queer.
Yes, yes. That was something like I immediately noticed. Like his boss and his friends, like the one who actually go with him to try to find Itomori,
Mm.
were literally like, he was cute that day. Like his friend was like,
Yeah,
oh, hold on. What? And like his boss was also like, I didn't know you had a feminine side. Like you guys were more attracted to him when he had like this more like feminine persona in his body. So it's like, I don't know how to tell you this, sis, but Yeah, I like that little that that moment where both of them were like, "Oh, okay."
I love that too, especially like so whenever it's the first time the girl's in his body and she goes to the high school with him and every or as him, and that friend that went with him to see this village later on, there is like a slight moment of like boy love action in terms of like he compliments him. He's like, I don't forget what he says, but it's something in terms of like, you seem so cute today, or or like you're so beautiful, or it was something very subtle. It wasn't something as strong as beautiful, but then you see
Yeah.
the friend blush, and it was like, oh, okay, what? I see blushing right now. What is
Yeah.
this?
He said that after Taki Mitsuha left, and the friends were talking, and like his friend was like, Taki was kind of weird today, and then he was like, I don't know, it was kind of cute, and then he started
Mhm.
blushing. So it's like, but then at the same time, I like how the physicality didn't matter for him. It was like the personality, and like she is this like cute young rural Japanese girl, so she has like the all the politeness, and seeing her being raised as the mayor's daughter, he publicly reprimanded her for not having great posture. So she's like prim proper. So I thought that was like cute that he was like, I don't know why I'm getting the feels for like my homeboy that I've known forever. It's like,
Right? I thought it was super cute. Another moment that I thought was hilarious that I wanted to share with you was that like what people do in astrology is that if you're having fun with it, you always name characters in a movie like, oh, that character is such a so and so sign. That character is such a so and so sign. Let me tell you, Suha's little sister. First, I want to gauge your feelings. Misuha's little sister. If she was going to be a sign, what sign would she be to you?
oh man, I think she'd be a fire sign or an air sign. Like, I just feel like she either an Aquarius or like an Aries, just because she's so much like. I think the scene that makes me get like, I get fire energy from her. Is like, oh, you're not feeling your boobs again this morning. Just like closing the door before her sister could be a weirdo. But then also when she was like, you could sell the sake, move to Tokyo with it, like the kind of like, how do we make this like a business plan? But she doesn't seem grounded like an earth sign, because then you could say, oh, maybe Capricorn. She seems more like, I'm sick and tired of hearing you complaining. Go do something, be about it, be action oriented. So that's how I would like actually peg her. I don't know. What about you?
Definitely felt that she was like such a Sagittarius in the sense of like she did not care anything about her sister. Like she cared
She's
for
like too
her,
weird.
you know what I mean? Yeah, she
Yeah.
loved her, but she was like, I'm not gonna deal with your weirdo stuff, sis. Like you need to get over yourself and just get on out. Come on, let's do this. That girl was always ready just to go, 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 go. You know what I mean? And that's really what I feel like about a Sagittarius. And they have this whole entire storyline in their head of like how things are too. And I felt like that's exactly how the little sister was was definitely that moment of where the little sister was like, "You can just make this the um, sake and brand it as like maiden temple girl sake," because it's what happens is that like they have to eat the rice, mush it up in their mouth, and then spit it out, and then it ferments, and it's like a gift to this god that they're like performing the ceremony for. And to me, first of all, I never even heard of that, so I was really surprised. I forgot about that part in the movie. But then it was just like, this is so funny that this little sister is like coming up with this business plan right on the spot, just so this girl can like shut up about wanting to go to Tokyo. I thought it was hilarious.
And then like the whole, I hope that in my next life I'm reborn as like a cute like boy who lives in Tokyo. And then next scene, she wakes up as a cute boy living in Tokyo. And she probably thinks like,
Yes.
oh my God, it's like I manifested this. It's like, mm, kind of, sort of, not really, but and something I think is actually really interesting because in a way, it's like like they were sharing one body after, the comet hit and she passed away. So it was kind of like she actually was like reincarnated, but like sharing Taki's body in order for him to like help figure it out, because I guess like the but that's, I guess, like, now we're branching into a different topic of like why were they allowed to transcend time and space to save Itomori, even though they already had evidence that this comet would split, since that's how the river was created, which Tessie like told us about. He's like, this is legit. Like the last time the comet came over, it created the crater that is now our lake. So like, why is everyone acting like this is so crazy? So I wonder why they were the ones who were able to figure it out, and why they were the ones who got the chance to do it again, especially since like Mitsuha actually died. So
Well, I think like that. Also, what I love about this story is that it does a very subtle way of foreshadowing things,
yeah.
and like how to build up theme. Like it builds its theme very, very well for me, and I love that. So like in that first instance at the very beginning of the movie where Mitsuha is no longer Mitsuha and it's Taki for the first day, he like then they switch back. Mitsuha goes back to school and doesn't recognize that she skipped a whole day because she can't remember, right? And so her friend, her male friend there, they're having lunch together, just sitting down, and he's like says the line of like, "Oh, this must be memories from a previous life that you experienced, which is why you can't remember." And that's what I felt like, is that like that's literally what was happening, is that they were just experiencing the memories and everything, because later on it goes to say that time is like a twine, and it can get tangled and it untangles and it connects and reconnects, and disconnects and everything. And it was just like it's all circular. So it was essentially saying what you have experienced, what you will experience, are things you already have experienced and have gotten through yourself, in a way. And that's why I think like it was bringing them together. It was a form of destiny, just like how Mitsuha's father and mother got connected. I think were very similar situations. As the father, he recognized what was going on. He goes, "You're not Mitsuha." At the very end, during the whole entire comic scene and everything, where she's trying to raise like awareness and get her father on her side, and she has this distant past with her father, yada yada yada, was so impactful because he recognized whenever she wasn't herself, and he recognized that as like a true sign that it's his daughter who also was like his wife who passed away. He like has not gotten over. So for me, I think it's like just I think it's a thing that just happens to all these women in this like line. I think it's beautiful, but I also think it's just like part of their destiny is to experience something like this, to one, find a real true connection, because they're like a family that values that type of connection, that refuses to like break away if they can help it, and always try and stay connected. But then they also are willing to experience these things and go through these things and not necessarily reject it fully. They embrace it as part of who they are, is this nectar of a sort. So I feel like it was her destiny to experience this. I have no idea how that guy Taki, how he got wrapped up in it, in the sense, besides like he was just destined to connect to her on a deeper level. Maybe that's like the deep line that it had to be. But I love the theme of connection throughout the whole entire movie for sure.
yeah, I don't. So Miyamizu is the last name, the lineage of women who are able to like do this like body jumping thing. I don't know if her mother did it with her father, but in the conversation with her grandmother, they were saying that they would share notes about randomly switching places with folks. Um, and I think it could also be like the fact that the grandma could see that she was Taki. Like, sometimes she just had that moment of realization where she could see, and that moment where she was like, oh, it's how you're dreaming. And she saw like Taki in
Mm.
like this kind of like black space. Um, it could be that the father had that moment too, or it could be that he's like, this can't be my daughter because of the way that she's standing up to me. Like something has gotten into her. She's not who she normally is, because like she, you know, has that determination, that fire in her eyes. But then at the very end of the movie too, when she like finally runs up to him and is like, yo, like during like the when they save the day scene, she's she is Mitsuha. So I don't think that he I don't know. I think that it's more like you're not acting like yourself. Like, who are you? Like, why are you behaving in this way? Because he also isn't from the Miyamizu lineage to like know like their connection. He doesn't respect it since he left the shrine anyway. He was like, I didn't marry the traditions in the shrine. I married my wife, Futaba, who's now, you know, nicked, you know? So she she did. So I think that that mystery is like for us as the audience to kind of fill in. Like, is it because, you know, he was able to see through her, like, you know, Granny was able to do it, um, things like that. But it's just a very interesting movie. And what did you think about, like, you know, key takeaways, the symbolism in the movie? Because after I watched it, I was like, in my feels and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. And I cried later. And it's just because it's such a like that scene at the end when they like meet each other and they're like, I know you in some way, and it's still the thread that, you know, they go through the ceremony of weaving is how they were able to like, you know, reconnect again. So I don't know. Do you have any like beliefs and feelings post watching the movie in response to maybe something that you've seen specifically in the movie?
I this is such a feel good movie. Like, in not a sense of like ha 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 funny or like humorous. There are humor spots in it, but it's really just like an overall like warming sensation that I feel, or like a tingling sensation after watching the movie, because it just fills you up with like love and that connection and that deeper simulation. Because this isn't like just any type of story. It feels like this feels like there to me it feels like there was some truth in the story to whoever the writers were, in the sense of like, not only did they craft this, and they probably definitely spiced it up some and made it more dramatic, but at the core of it was like the idea of balance, unity, and connection, like the three things that you have to really like move forward with another person in yourself at the same time. You know what I mean? You can't get lost in somebody else. If you do get lost in somebody else, it's okay if you know that you are going to become more balanced from it. And that's kind of like what I was seeing, is that both of them by themselves were not necessarily happy with where they were. They didn't feel their best version of themselves by themselves. They really needed somebody else to kind of wake them and shake them to their core and make them feel like they were something completely different. And at the end, they felt even more like themselves. Then it was just like, the ending is also so spectacular. So the ending, what happens is that after the comet happens, and you find out that they saved the day. Well, it's they connect and they're able to actually see each other face to face in this magic twilight hour, which is really beautiful, right? And then they touch each other, they get to talk to each other face to face, and they're like, okay, it looks like our time's almost up. Quickly tell me what your name is so we can remember whenever we wake up and write it down. Um, because they keep on losing each other's sense of memory and who the other person is, but they have that deeper feeling of they know who that is. Anyways, so they do that, and Taki writes on Mitsuha's hand first, and you don't necessarily see what he writes. And then she's there taking action and everything, and she looks down, and she is trying to remember who he is, like what his name was. And all she sees written on her hand is "I love you." Doesn't even take the time to like tell her his name. He just wanted to express how much he loved her. I think that was so beautiful. And of course, she didn't get the time either to write anything on his hand. She just drew a line, and then it was done. And then, you jump forward into Taki's time of like more real time and everything. And then from his point, you jump into 4 more years, or 5 more years, I think. He's out of college, fresh out of college, trying to find a job, it seems. And he's just like a shell of himself. It really feels like he's just trying to walk around when he's searching for this person who he doesn't know, and all he has is like her braided armband, I think. No, no, not even then. Then he doesn't even have it anymore. He's
Yeah.
looking for he's looking for her, and he's like feeling a disconnect, again. And then he sees her, they find each other and everything, but they're kind of shy at first because they don't know each other's name per se, because in reality, right, in a physical world, they never met. They've only ever met through this crazy experience with the comet.
Well, they met
But they
once.
recognize.
They met once
Yeah,
when Mitsuha went to Japan or went
yeah,
to
and
Tokyo. Yeah.
yeah. They met once, but Mitsuha, like, she knew at that time, but Taki didn't know anything. And that's really when Mitsuha like had the understanding of, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Anyways, so at the very end, right? Sorry, I love this. I love how it ends so well. And then like they cross each other. You see each other in the train, and it crosses each other, and they recognize again who they are almost to a sense, a deeper sense than what they currently do. And then they find each other and they pass each other again, and they get so nervous. They just stop and they're like debating internally. You can see that struggle of like, do I turn around and reach out? And then they turn around. Mitsu's crying. And Taki's like, do I know you from somewhere? And she's like crying and everything. And then they kind of like rush together and they're like, what is your name? And that's how it ends. It literally ends with "What is your name?" or something that's very similar to that
Your name
sentence. And it's
is
just like,
yeah.
yeah. And it's just way to end is so beautiful. I absolutely love that. I love that so much. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like yay for them. It makes me root for them, of course. But it's also just like very whimsy, in the sense of like more so than Harry Potter, but very Studio Ghibli vibes. The sense of like how it like all comes together too. It's a really really great movie. Sure. How did it make you feel at the end? What are your feelings?
Well, for me, so I watched this movie last year because of a friend's recommendation. So we watched it together. And like last year when I watched it, I was just really in a spot in my life where I was super big on like symbolism and like mysticism. So I was like, lighting my candles and setting my intention and doing tarot and like working with crystals. So very much that. So when I watched the movie last year, it felt like absolute like synchronicity, serendipity, and that also was a very like charged night. I think it was like a full moon. It was crazy. So I had a lot of strong emotions to it. So this year I am I'm like, okay, I watched it last year, I know what happens. And I had a different response to it this year because last year I was like, oh my God, like, we really have to seize the day and just I was talking with my friend about this like movie for maybe like an hour after it was done. I was like, it's all about, mysticism and like seizing the day and, going after the things that we really want in life and like connecting with others and blah, blah, blah. I was about to go sing from the rooftops that Your Name is like a cultural reset and everybody needs to watch it. Like that's how I felt last year. But this year, I was looking at it more from like a perspective of like soulmate bonds because like the movie starts off with like I've always felt like I was searching for something, I was looking for something, and we can assume that that was happening in 2016, which is like 3 years after everything had already happened to Mitsuha and things like that. And she was like, I'm always feeling like I'm looking for something, I'm searching for something. So in my head it's like, are they, twin flames or soulmates because they were able to actually like, share each other's bodies and like, commune in this soul way. But then at the same time, something that I couldn't help but notice is like Taki had that crush on his boss he had been working with her for years and years and years and years and had never even met Mitsuha. And like his boss was like, you already like someone else and I can see it in your face. He's like, no, I don't. But in my head, it's like it started getting me to think more about how connections normally feel so much more real when they're passionate, when there's something that is like actually like a an intense situation or experience. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we have to save my town from getting hit by like a fucking comet in order to fall in love with them. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be
Oh
that
my
crazy.
god.
Can you imagine? But like, he had been crushing on his boss forever, and she never responded to him. And Mitsuha literally was like, "I'm gonna go to Tokyo because I want to see how this date goes or whatever." Because she already knew she had feelings for him too. And I don't know, it got me thinking more about having intense situations and relationships with people in order to build bonds that like transcend space and time. Because when they see each other again, yeah, you could say it's because of the bells on her little, headband, or like the little braided wrap she made. But then it was also like they had that recognition of each other. They looked at each other like, I know you. And it's deeper than, oh, I know your name is Mitsuha, and like, I know your name is Taki. Like, it's like, I know you. Like, they saw each other like beneath the skin and beneath that. They, I guess, like, had remnants of their experience. So, like, as you said, when they met at the end, it's like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. She's like, I feel the same way. And it's like that serendipity where you can't explain how you like feel connected to someone. So I don't know, it makes me think like, is there validity to like the twin flame and like soulmate conversation that we often hear in the spiritual arena? Because you could really say that they had like a connection that was predestined, before they met each other, maybe before they were born, who knows? But um, yeah, it got me thinking more about that and how, in our everyday lives, there are people that we're going to meet that maybe inspire some kind of emotion in us, like his boss did or his like senior at work did. But they're going to be people who also change us in ways that we couldn't have forecasted. And we'll keep looking for that person until we actually meet them again. And then it's like you can start a new relationship that neither one of you anticipated. So that's how I was looking at it more so this year, like thinking about the nature of soul bonds and soul connections because of their experience. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm coming out of left field, but that's like how I was like looking at it this time around.
No, I definitely like questioned myself too watching the story of like, are they just soulmates or are they twin flames? And like, I don't know if this is like the technical term for a twin flame, but how I understand twin flame is essentially at one point there is this one flame, and then you can say that's someone's like soul, right? At some part, it's split into two, so you're two halves of the same whole, which is why it's like a twin flame. You come from the same fire, essentially, the same thing that made you. Um, so for me, like what I see that as is that like everyone in their lives are, I want to say soulmates to them. You know what I mean? In a sense of like they have a connection with them that's long lasting and impactful to some degree. I'm not talking about just like romantically or anything. What I'm talking about is that like I think they were all destined to be in some form of this connection and be little like pieces that flare off. But I think that that stronger bond that Mitsuha and Taki experience are because they're like twin flames. Because I think to me, like they are just two halves that when they come together they make one whole. And I feel like you can really see that in how they were experiencing each other's lives whenever the switches were happening. You can see how things were changing within each one of them, especially whenever the other one lost one. Like they felt not even they felt changed and less than, but more different than how they did before. So to me, I feel like that was a twin flame experience that they had with each other.
Yeah, like I think there were, of course, there were some key differences in that there was no runner and chaser. We didn't see the relationship end in disaster, like some of the like
Ugh,
typical
ugh.
stereotypes surrounding twin flames and things like that. Like at the end of the movie, both of them were running to be together, and you could say it's like that's that typical like, flame magnetism that they were experiencing in that moment. But I don't know. It feels like they were like just two souls who's like just like the thread just got, you know, entwined, entangled. They were in an entanglement that they could not forecast. But that's just how I saw it. But I don't know. This I want to like pivot a little bit since you mentioned it. Do you believe in our, physical world in the concept of destiny, or was it just, you know, serendipity? Because I think that is a completely different and interesting conversation as well.
So this is, I guess, kind of this is where I play to a more Libra side, where I'm like, I say there's both. I feel like some things are destined for you, but you choose your destiny that you want to take on, or the aspects of it that you want to take on or reject. So like and then some things just happen to you. And that happening, I feel like, is still part of like the universe or whatever figure or figures you want to play tribute to. Bring that into you because that's what you're asking for and you're attracting and you're like manifesting. You know what I mean? So I know that sounds super convoluted because like I feel like you're everyone's destined for something greater than what they are, at least for sure. But how many people actually want to embrace that and take that forward and can work through themselves and work through that ego to get to it, or aspects of it? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you in that same vein? Are you living your destiny right now? Are you actually taking the steps needed to fulfill it?
Oh my God, am I on blast? No. No. I feel like, so to be honest with everyone, I feel like I haven't discovered what my destiny is yet.
Mm.
Um, but I do feel like I am taking steps to try to like peel that curtain back more so every single day so I can see that bigger picture. And some would say that like, oh, well, you're too young, so of course you won't know. Or, some will say, well, you haven't, fully lived a life yet. Of course you wouldn't know, yada, yada, yada. And you only have those experiences once you're at a certain age or at a certain, like, maturity level. I think that comment and that whole entire string of comments is BS because to me
Exactly.
it's like, no, I feel like, you can know what your destiny is at starting at the age of 5. You know what I mean? Or like whatever age you can be as young as whatever and just have that knowing. So that sense of certainty for me is just not here yet. I know it is coming, and in some form of way I have already experienced it, so I know that it's possible and I know that it's here. So it's just like me, I'm trying to work through, get out of my ego to be able to fully see it and fully embrace it because I know it's me that's stepping in my way of my own destiny.
Hmm. Okay. Um,
What about
I
you? No, you can't get out of this.
that's a hot take. Okay, so I'm gonna go back and answer the question I originally asked. Do I believe in serendipity or destiny? I think it's hard to say because I am a person that definitely believes in like the law of attraction and what we are, we get back and things like that. So in a way, I think serendipity is kind of like when we like release some resistance and allow things that have always been there in our vortex and like our honey pot of things that we want to finally come through. So it feels like it's random. It feels like it's serendipity, but really it's we stopped fighting against that thing from coming into our life experience.
Yes, yes.
Now, with destiny, I think that I think our destiny as people is to live the best version of our lives possible, whatever that definition is, and create a life that we are happy with. Some people will be like, I was destined to be a writer, I was destined to blah, blah, blah. And I would always like encourage them to go a level below that. Like, what exactly would writing let you do? It allows me to connect with people. I get to move people. I get to change people. I get to change the world. Like, that's your destiny. Like, writing is just a modality that you think is the best way of doing it. But underneath that, like, it's the why of why do you want to do XYZ thing? Like, what do you think is going to happen if you do that? And why does it have to be you? So I think that plain and simple, everyone's destiny is to should be to live the life of their dreams. So some people will be like, I was destined to climb Kilimanjaro. Okay, girl, do you? Um, Now, in relation to, do I think I have a destiny and have I, made steps to actualize it? I don't know. I don't think of, is there something I'm meant to do? I do resonate with the, thought of like there is something missing or I know I want more. I don't know what that thing is that's missing. Um, and it's not missing in the sense of like I'm curled up in the shower, like crying about it's not here. Like not that. It's like, when you just know that this feels like I'm in like a it's like we're in a taxi on a plane because I've been flying a lot. So when you're on the runway and the plane's not moving, but like you're like, hey, at least I'm on the way soon. Like we're not moving now, but like I'm on the way. It's good that I'm in the plane. That's how I feel right now. Do I know the destination that we're flying off to? Absolutely not. Um,
You
and I
said, let
always
me
think,
get on this flight and not know where I'm going.
yeah, like I'm just like, listen, I don't know where. That's why there's like that sense of like uncertainty behind like if I do have a destiny that's other like I guess another destiny in that like I'm supposed to achieve this or do this or whatever. I don't know what that is. I'm just like knowing that I'm on some kind of path to getting there. And I think that this like uncertainty could be due to many things, like living in a very practical society, being a practical person, as practical as I can be on most good days. Um, but I don't know what it is. And I'm just like, how can I be the happiest version of myself? I know there are things I could do to change my current situation to be happier. So I'm like, okay, I know I could do that. But I don't know if I have a destiny that's like been written in the stars. Like, this is what Renee was meant to do here. And it is probably because, like, whenever I think of destiny too, I think big picture, I think world changing kind of thing. Not like my destiny was to raise this child and, undo generational patterns. Like that could be someone's destiny as well to like break the pattern. Um, but I never really think of that. I always think like, how can I, destiny is when you're coming forth and changing like the paradigm or, you're shifting something. So maybe because I'm thinking too big, I'm not able to see my my sized destiny. So yeah, that's where I am. Basically, like if I can sum it up, I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like I'm stagnant in the journey of actualizing that because I don't know what the destination is. So it's kind of hard to take off on the tarmac if I don't know east, the west, north, south. I don't know where I'm going. So yeah.
I would definitely say to that, like, something I always hate hearing as like a Capricorn is that enjoy the journey. Just enjoy it. You don't have to worry about the destinations, about the experience. That crap pisses me off. So like I that's something that I obviously have to work through, right? So like when you say things of like you don't know where the destiny is yet, the destination is yet. I definitely understand how you feel about that because like I do feel the same way. Um, it feels like I'm blind, stumbling around in a room full of things, and I'm trying to draw a picture of them
Like
at the same time.
yeah.
And it's just like, no, no, don't really understand, but I'm stepping, drawing.
Yeah. I mean, I I think I used to hate that phrase of like, enjoy the ride, not the destination. Because then, I mean, if you look at a roller coaster, you don't have the most fun when you've pulled back into, the beginning of the ride. You have the most fun
I
as like,
do.
well, okay, if you like.
I'm happy when
Um,
it's over. Just kidding.
I mean,
I know
like,
what you're saying. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Yeah, yeah.
no. Like, I don't know. Like, when I look back at my life so far, like, obviously I'm not on my deathbed, so I'm not at the end of it. and I'm still having a relatively good time, you know. When I look at some of the things I've experienced, you could say those are part of the journey as well. And like, yeah, I had a good time with that too. And when the journey was coming to a close, I was like, wait, I'm not ready to be done yet. I want to keep doing this, you know? So I think when you allow yourself to be fully present in the experience and you're having like the best time you could possibly have, then the destination really doesn't matter because the journey feels so good. Which is why like I feel like I don't know what my destiny is, but I'm not in a rush to like figure it out because like, you know, there are things I know I want to experience and it feels more like, you know, I'm on a quest and I don't know what the destination is, but I just decided, hey, I'm leaving home and I'm gonna find my definition of fun. That's what I feel like I'm doing right now. Like I'm finding my own fun and carving out my like I guess my spot in the world, and that's like the fun that I'm having, the destiny that I'm actualizing is figuring out who I am and what I bring to the table, not for my sake only, but for my family, for the world, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah.
Well, Renee, I feel like it's come that time again where we've met those minutes.
Yes, we
And
have.
I want to say to everyone, you know, thank you again for listening, or if you're watching us too. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. And we want to hear from you. If you've ever seen this movie, or if you haven't seen this movie, we want to know your thoughts and your feelings behind it. And we also want to know more about you. Do you believe in destiny? Do you think destiny is true? And have you found yours or not yet? Is there anything you want to say, Renee?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said. I think that the conversation about destiny and finding yourself and connecting with other people is really interesting. And I mean, that's why we have this pod, because we wanted to connect with as many people as possible. So definitely don't hesitate to say something, say what you need to say. And you can follow us on our social media handles, 2caps_coffee on everything, and listen to the podcast everywhere you like to listen to podcasts.
And that's our show for today. Thank you.
Bye, people.